Hello everyone, and welcome to my first ever program of Soulful Connections. I'm really excited to be doing this. This is something I've thought about for such a long time, and I just wanted to create a wonderful platform to introduce you to some of these absolutely outstanding people that I have in my life. Some of them are friends, great friends of many years. You're going to meet one very shortly. Others of them are therapists and people that I've met along my journey, and some of them are just wonderful, extraordinarily ordinary people who are making a difference in the lives of others. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my first guest, someone who is deeply special to me in my life. We have known each other for over 25 years. Our children, my youngest children and her two children, went through schooling together, starting at preschool. And I would say, I'd like to say that we were kind of being partners in crime. We wrote a show together and did some lovely theatre work together, which was just so much fun. But most importantly of all, I think that Jo and I have had this great soulful journey together. It hasn't always been plain sailing, but we've learned such a lot from each other and together. So today my guest is Jo Bailey. She is an extraordinary woman. She has an extraordinary story. Jo expresses herself as a writer, teaching writing. She's editor. She is a freelance journalist. I'm reading this because the list is so long I can't remember it. She's a mum of two great young adults. And she has a cat called Jasper, who I'm sure lets Jo know when he needs her undivided attention. But most important of all in her time now is that she is what is called, and she called herself, an accidental activist. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to introduce Jo to you. And so Jo, hello my dear.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to be your very first guest. It's such a privilege. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. It's just a joy. It's an absolute joy. And, you know, when Jo and I get together, we could just talk and talk and talk and talk, and we never talk small talk. It's always this wonderful conversations. And so today we're kind of having to rein it in to fit into this hour of my program, but we'll do our best, all right? And I'm sure we're going to go off on tangents here and there, but they'll always be interesting and uplifting. Okay. Jo, one of the things that we're going to talk about today is your accidental social activism. And I think that before we begin that, we need to sort of cast back to your life. In order to do that, we have to go to, or we're going to start on the date of the 15th of March 2019 in Christchurch, New Zealand. And who could forget where we were on that day? I know where I was. I know what I was doing. We had just been to the High Court to see Alex, our daughter. She'd been admitted to the bar, and we were all really wonderful, excited about that. And we were having a lovely lunch at the Duck's Dine in Riccarton, and totally oblivious to what was going on just around the corner from where we were. And then, of course, the news started coming out that this is what happened. There's a gunman out there on the loose. And it was, you know, oh my goodness, the whole feeling of that day was just one of fear and just absolute sadness, and for those people who were just taken out in a time of when they were so peaceful and they were so vulnerable. Who could forget that? So I want you to start telling your story, because this is about you, not me. Where were you on that day, and what was happening for you?
Well, similarly to you, Olwynne, I was actually enjoying lunch with a friend as well. We were having a wee celebration actually, because I'd had a wee breast cancer scare, and I'd been a little bit anxious for a couple of weeks, and my dear friend Jendi had come with me to see the oncologist, and we just got the great news that everything was fine. So we decided to pop down to Maryvale and have a wee glass of bubbles and some nibbles. And so after that sort of anxious time, it was just lovely to have a wee bit of time to feel quite euphoric actually. And I remember Jendi saying to me, oh my goodness, is this what people do on Fridays at lunchtime? We've got to do this more often. And then I think we were there for about 15 minutes, and I got a text message from Hannah to say what had happened, and it was just so shocking and completely horrifying. And she was, Mum, where are you? You've got to get home. And she works at the hospital, so she was seeing later, from her office, or the ambulance has come and gone. It was so it was, every single person, in our community, as you say, will never forget where they were, and we were all affected in different ways, but none more so, of course, than, our Muslim community. And it was just so incredibly shocking to think, as you say, in a time of prayer and peace, how a heinous act like that could happen in our city. And I just felt it so completely deeply. At the time I didn't know. I knew one Muslim person, and but I certainly just felt such grief for the entire community.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? That gunman used his power without love, and then of course, as we saw, that the people gathered together and used their power with love to help, to comfort, and to acknowledge and to bring together the community led by our beautiful Prime Minister, who just used her power with love and kind of led the way, along with the people of Canterbury and Christchurch, who wanted to show how heartbroken they were for the Muslim community, but also for us as a whole people. It was about them, and yes, but it was just about all of us collectively, wasn't it? That one what hurts one hurts all, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, sadly in Canterbury we've become quite practiced at tragedy and having, but what the good thing that comes out of these situations is that we have got very good at wrapping ourselves around people when they need support and love, and it's like, what do you need? Everyone rallies around. The food starts, the comfort, money, flowers, whatever it is that people need. But I think that was where and it was amazing, and I went to the vigils and donated money and donated flowers, and I remember being at the Sunday night. There was a Sunday night vigil that I went to in Hadley Park, and it was beautiful. But that's where it sort of struck me that I needed to do that was where the germ of the idea came from, because and quite rightly our Muslim whānau were up the front. And while we were all there supporting them and wrapping ourselves around them, we were still hugging. I was still hugging Pākehā people in the crowd, and I still felt a sense of disconnect, and I felt that I wanted to do more, but I didn't know what I could do or how I could do it. And I was worried that these beautiful feelings, might not continue. That once there's a bit of time and a bit of distance, people go back to their daily lives, but I knew the community was going to be hurting forever. And so I didn't know what I could do until the next morning. I woke up, and it was like, when the universe gives you the boot on the backside. And I remember getting up, and I was in a particularly busy period, with work and everything, and I remember getting up, and it was very loud and clear, the voice saying, you've got to reach out to Zara, who was my Muslim friend, and you've got to create an event to bring women together. And so the right part of my brain's going, I'm so busy, how am I going to do something like that? And the soulful spiritual side's going, no, this is soul journey stuff here, and there's no option here. And I was, I knew it was from my heart and my soul, and it was something that I just had to do. And so it was just the start of the most amazing journey and twist and turn in my life that I never expected. And it's just been so incredible beyond words the last year. So I did reach out to Zara that very day, and we had a coffee the next day, and she was we've got to do something. And so she said, get some friends together, let's have lunch on Thursday. And so I found myself from the Sunday night, by the Thursday lunchtime, I was sitting around a table in a beautiful cafe with 2 other Pākehā friends of Zara's and 2 Muslim friends. So there were 3 Muslim women, 3 Pākehā women, and we all just connected, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, cool, we're doing it, and we were planning this event just like that. And so, you know, the right people just came together at the right time, and so and these women have all just got an amazing all sorts of, you know, different skills and experiences. And 2 of our women, Zara and Naima, came to New Zealand as refugees, so they have such a deep understanding of the needs of, you know, migrant and refugee women. So that we just learned, I've just learned so much. And so we created this event, and we just decided we just wanted to bring women together of all races and cultures and ethnicities, and we really wanted you know, to show support and solidarity for our Muslim sisters, but also make it a very inclusive space for, you know, women from, basically, if you identify as women,
Yes.
Come along, and you're welcome, and we will love you. And so we did. So we created this event, and then it sort of got bigger than Ben here, and and we had nearly 600 women come.
Yes, I couldn't make it that night. I was sick. I was like, no, I so wanted to go. I just wasn't well enough, and it's just like, oh well, it wasn't meant to be. But you know, what I saw and what I've heard and what you've done is just outstanding. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. We had some amazing support, but you know, I think most of all, you know, there was obviously a desire for women to connect, and I think that, you know, and it's not, you know, like what we did ended up, like in my mind when I started, I was kind of imagining a hall, you know, like a church hall, and, you know, a bit of music and lovely food, and then it just got, you know, as we went on, it became quite serious, and we had, you know, video message from Leanne Dalzell, and we had some amazing speakers from the Tahu, from government, and all these incredible women who, from many different countries and cultures, who shared their stories about how they came to be in New Zealand. And I think, you know, that's, as a writer and as a storyteller, to me, story is just everything. And when you sit down with someone at a table over a cuppa and you talk and you share your stories, it just breaks down all those barriers. They just melt away, and you just realise that, I mean, I've always believed that we're all from one human whānau, and I can't understand, you know, why there has to be these kind of divisions, and why we can't get over that old historical stuff and just kind of move forward as a human family, because we've got some quite big stuff, you know, on the planet that we need to be dealing with as well. And if we're going to be, you know, not uniting, and it just makes everything so much harder, you know, if we can find, you know, that common ground to move forward. Absolutely. So it was just so amazing. And the woman came, and we were just so blessed. At the last minute, many of the affected, you know, severely affected Muslim widows came, and so we had a very strong representation from the Muslim community. My friend Rebecca, who is on our crew, we call ourselves the crew, she just started this amazing initiative. So she, after that, she's such a so she gathered up all she went to the council, and, you know, all the flowers that were left outside Alnor in the Botanic Gardens, she wanted to do something with the wrappers, because it was all going to landfill. All of the lovely messages that could be salvaged, you know, were salvaged and kept. But, you know, you can't do anything, well, you would think, with plastic wrappers around flowers. So Beck went to the council and said, can I have them? Because I want to do something with them. So she gathered up these mountains of wrappers, put them through her new washing machine at home, and cleaned them all up, and then gave them to her friend Simona, who's this lovely German artist called the Flower Girl. So she made, out of these wrappers, 200 individual paper flowers, and then they made this beautiful big sign called that spelled out unity. And so we unveiled that on the night and gifted it to the Muslim community, and they've since gifted it to the museum. So it's a lasting kind of memorial, and I guess that was kind of a way as a community that we could kind of show our unity, and it really set the theme for the night as well, which was really special.
Oh. You were talking before about how we're all just one people. There's no black, there's no white, and there's no anything. We're all just one people, and I think that that's really important, and most important right now. It's always been important, but it's never been more important than it is in this moment. Just because every moment that we have is an opportunity to make a difference. And if we don't do something, then it will have to wait for another time for it to be addressed. But now is the right time, isn't it? Do you understand what I mean by that? It's like you can say, when is the right time? Well, now is the right time. Now is it.
There's no other time.
Now is all we've got.
It's got to be now.
Yeah. That's right. It's got to be now. And what you discovered and what happened is that when the time is right, the momentum just happens. It's just waiting to burst out. It's waiting to happen, and it's waiting for that right energetic opportunity to present itself. Sadly, and I hope that we, as a species, as a race, as a consciousness of people, can get to the point where we don't need disasters and terrible things to happen before we can actually tap into that energy, releasing that energy some way, because that seems to be how we are, isn't it? We have to wait for something kind of, not so nice to happen before we can galvanize ourselves, like we found in the earthquakes. People were helping each other, like through the shootings and the things that we've been through. So your wonderful Uniting Canterbury Woman was a bit like Michelangelo. Was he's the one that created David, wasn't he? Yes. Yeah, that's right. He said he was waiting in the stone to be discovered, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
It's like Uniting Canterbury Women was waiting in the energy field. It was waiting there to be brought forward, and
absolutely,
and through you, which I think is, you talk about these other women, and that's who you are. You are a very humble person, and you are very much about everybody else. But I know you really well, and I know that without you, it wouldn't have happened, because it came to you and through you.
Yeah.
And you are the right person for that to come through, because it needed you and your lovely energy and your humility and your joy and your compassion and all that wonderful empathy and the storyteller. You're a great listener, which is really important. That when something big needs to happen, it needs to find the right person to bring it through, and that was you. And then of course you just found everybody else, and they were all waiting too, which I think is just such a lovely story. And here's the event, here's what's happened. All these
and we've kept going. We're still going.
Wonderful. You have online events as well, don't you? You have online events as well. Now, women can join Uniting Canterbury Women. Can women from anywhere join Uniting Canterbury Women? Can they be a part of it?
Absolutely. Okay. Yes, as long we've just kept the reason that we have kept it as women, people who identify as women, is that for vulnerable women, especially women, migrant women, refugee women, it can be quite hard for them to open up in a mixed situation. And so it's just really all about creating a space where, and I think it's okay to say this group's for women,
definitely.
You know what I mean? There's so much PC, but I think we're so inclusive in every other way. But we'd love to inspire men to do the same thing, and we'd love to inspire women in other regions to do the same, and other countries. It actually, it's interesting. Like, we sort of had this idea that grew and grew and grew, and it's become, now we're an organisation, and applying for funding and doing all this kind of stuff. I never expected, but it's really cool. But you know, it doesn't have to be, making a difference doesn't have to be starting an organisation, or it just doesn't have to be like, it's as simple as if you're a mum and you see a woman in the playground who is obviously from another culture or another country, just go and say hi and, you know, chat, share stories. Start a coffee group at school or church or wherever you congregate. Just start a coffee group. And we've just started some multicultural coffee groups, and we've got some big plans for I can't really probably say too much yet, but it's quite exciting, the plans that we've got that will support local ethnic businesses, get women together, share food. It's just going to be so much fun. Lovely. So, you know, there's things that, you know, it's just about having a small idea, or, you know, just, it doesn't have to be big and audacious and scary. It can be making a difference. And I think, to me, even though so the accidental activist, it's sort of, and I didn't even know I was an activist, but I've always been felt very strongly about equality for women, for all races and cultures. Always felt very strongly about that. But I guess, and then it was my friend Amber that introduced me. She's on our crew, and she introduced me as a social change activist, and I went, oh my God, I love that. That's so cool. I didn't know I was, but that's so cool. And I actually, that it doesn't mean, but to me, you know, I admire, you know, people that protest, and that is a form of activism that can really make a difference. I guess for me, my brand of activism, for want of a better word, is, I guess I call it kind of a gentle activism, but activism to me is being active, is actively doing something to hopefully create change, or you know, to help a situation that you see could do with. So for me, I think my activism is about uniting people. That's that word, uniting, and just and bringing people together and helping to create spaces where we can just break down those barriers that are all invisible anyway. I mean, they don't truly exist.
They're just their belief systems, aren't they? They're kind of people's ideas, or their perceptions of something that they have learned from someone else. It's a learned thing, isn't it? And I think that if we can unlearn that by just being in the presence of each other and just accepting each other for who we are. And I think, you know, just talking about women, and I've had this conversation a lot lately. I'm very much about, in my work and in my thinking, about looking at the consciousness of something, of people, of towns, countries, eras, things like that. And I think that's what's really interesting, is that we're still in that sort of old male bastion in some ways. We're back, we're still in there, and you can see with what's going on at the moment that that's not there. Those who are in that place are being really challenged. They're really kind of having their buttons pushed, and they don't like it. And I'm not being unkind. I'm not being detrimental to anyone. I'm just observing what's going on. And I think that, you know, what's happened in the past is that because women used to have the power many moons ago, the name used to come through a woman. A child's name would be the woman's name and not the man's name, because you always knew who your mother was. That was what I was told. I think it's kind of roll my eyes. But anyway, but it was, and then of course the male energy took over and women got pushed down. And so then women had to start competing with each other instead of working together. And they had to compete because they needed men to support them, to look after their children, to bring in the income, to keep them safe, to do all those things. And that is carried through for so long. And now we're kind of going, well, actually, no, we don't want that anymore. We actually can do that ourselves. And I think that really came through in things like, look at the 2 world wars, where men went off to war and women were left to run the place and do the work and raise the children and so on. And then, of course, the men came back and the women went back. But they never quite went back as far as they were before. And then the Second World War, and they were like, oh, we're up here again. No, we're not going quite back there anymore. And so then we had the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and so on. And then here we are today going, well, actually, we don't want to be kind of men in suits running around the place, you know, trying to be this hard, austere male energy. We really, really want to be our feminine selves and use all our beautiful intuition and our love and our caring and our compassion. But first of all, I feel we have to learn to stop competing with each other.
Absolutely.
Not a competition. That's the old way of seeing things. This new way is for, like you're talking about, unity, you know, compassion, understanding of each other, caring about each other, and lifting each other up. I think that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Oh,
celebrating us.
Absolutely. You know, and I think as Pākehā women too, you know, we have quite a responsibility. I didn't really understand what white privilege meant until the last year. Didn't really understand it. I always knew that I was very much, you know, anti-racist and but in terms of, I guess, what am I trying to say? I think I'm a good person, a kind person, very much.
Yeah.
But I didn't really understand what my privilege was. And it can be I think it can be quite a challenging term, you know, for Pākehā people. But there can be quite a misconception around it as well. Like, from my understanding, for what I've learned over the last year, is that every time I walk out my door to go to the supermarket or to go and meet a client or to whatever I'm doing, I don't have to worry about, am I going to be abused today because of the colour of my skin?
Yeah.
Am I going to be abused today because I wear a scarf on my head? Am I going to be disadvantaged through going for this job or whatever the case may be because of the colour of my skin? And it kind of boils down to that. That's the privilege that we have. So it's hard to understand what that feels like on the inside when we don't have that feeling every time we go out the door. You know, and what am I going to face today just because of who I am? And I think that's, you know, that's a terrible thing, you know, that shouldn't happen. So I think for you know, my friends, you know, refugee friends, migrant friends, and I've just met the most amazing women from all around the country, all around the world rather, you know, like all corners, and they're just amazing and doing all these amazing things, you know, right across the gamut. And, you know, but I think really it's easier for us to reach out than it is for them to reach out, because every time a refugee or migrant woman reaches out, they still have that fear of how am I going to be received? Whereas from my experience reaching out as a Pākehā woman, I've had nothing but love back. I can tell you a millionfold. It's just been so beautiful to, you know, have, you know, made all these incredible friendships, and it's so interesting, you know, it's just so interesting sharing stories, and our whole sort of gamut of life experience is just so different and so fascinating. That's what it's all about. And then so we drink coffee and eat cake and talk, and then we decide that we might you know, organise something, and you know, but we've got this that started with the 6 of us, but our network is just so big now, you know, it's just amazing. And then we've got the Zonta ladies who are messaging us all the time. They're so gorgeous, going, oh, now, right, we're ready to do some volunteering. What can you, what can we do? And, you know, so just these amazing, so it's, you know, I'm just a conduit for it, you know, it's just growing and growing to this kind of bubble and ball of love, and it's just so special, and it's energizing. Like, you know, a lot of it is a lot of work, but it's not work, you know, it's it's a labor of love. Completely, yeah. And it's just amazing. Like, we've only just started, because people are telling us that we should apply for funding and stop doing everything for nothing.
Yes.
We're starting to sort of get a bit more serious about, but that's not the place it comes from. But then also we've realised that to be sustainable, you know, we have to value what we're doing, and also we can grow and do more if we've got resources. So that's sort of where, you know, where we're coming from on that. But like, we had an amazing event on World Hijab Day. We got three or four of our Muslim friends put hijab on us and explained the hijab, and then we had this gorgeous Mauritian woman who came, and she was wearing her beautiful African head wrap. So she told us the story about that just off the cuff, and then she was putting the African head wrap on the woman as well, and we all just shared beautiful tea and had an amazing time. But it's the learning, you know, it's the learning as well.
You know, not knowledge and used in the right way and taken with all that, with your heart, you know, is such a healing and expanding thing, isn't it? You know, that we when we know better, we do better, don't we? So finding out about how other people think and how they feel and why they do what they do is the best thing for us. We can never fail by learning about other people. We can only grow.
Absolutely.
You know, and just listening to other people's stories and hearing, you know, their experiences, and you just kind of think, gosh, you know, my life's not so bad after all. I had no idea that was going on for them. They've always put on such a wonderful front, or whatever else it is, you know. And I think that sort of leads me into when we started this conversation by you saying that you went and you had good news about your breast cancer scare, you know. But for those people who of course don't know you, is that's not the first time that you have had to confront breast cancer in your life for yourself, and of course your dear mum. So I thought that it would be really good if people just got to know a little bit about you and where you've come from. And I just want to sort of set the scene for that by saying that I've known Jo, as I said, for over 25 years, and I first met her, I think you were working at the Northern Outlook, weren't you, working for the local newspaper? And we had a business, and Jo would come in and we'd have dealings and so on. We just sort of knew each other from around our small community. But we really got to know each other when our children were at Montessori preschool together, and that's when we kind of went, hello, here we are. And we had a lot in common, and we just found our friendship. So I think the thing that really astounded me about Jo is that there was, about you, my dear, is that at one point in your life, not long after we became wonderful friends, was that you had your little boy, Riley, who was not very well, was he? You had that going on. You had your mum who had cancer, and she was terminal, wasn't she? She was not going to beat it this time. You have a daughter. Both of your children are gifted children, and so that in itself is absolutely amazing. But it also brings its challenges, doesn't it, with your daughter Hannah and Riley, but wonderful challenges. But nevertheless, there as well. And your marriage was not in a good place, and then you had breast cancer. And just to add on top of that again, we'll just throw another, you know, mix in there. You decided to start a local sport newspaper.
Yeah.
And I can just remember thinking, oh my God, how is she doing all of that? She's going to go bang. You were like the Energizer Bunny. You were just doing it all. And I've always thought about that and been in real awe of what you did back then, that something was driving you along. Something was working within you at that time. So I'm just going to send back to you now and just let you explain, talk to the viewers what was happening for you through all of that. And you told me here a little bit about yourself when you were younger, about that you actually had a really kind of, you know, idyllic childhood, nothing much happened, and then you can go from there.
Yes, no, I did. I had, grew up on a farm, had a great childhood. But I guess the innocence was lost when I was 14, and that's when Mum was diagnosed with cancer for the first time. She was only 36. And sadly for Mum, she knew, and I guess there wasn't the help like there is today. It was significant trauma for her, and she never really got sort of back to, I don't know if normal's not the word, but so it was kind of hard, super hard for her. And I just kind of wish I'd been older at the time, so I could have had the awareness to have, got her some counselling, which I did sort of when she got it the second time. But so that was sort of when things did, I guess, kind of change. Probably just the only thing I would say about my teenage years, I was a bit of a rat bag, a bit of a rebel and a button pusher, but I was very quickly touching on women's issues. I remember when I was 14 and the Girls Can Do Anything campaign came out, and that just it was like, whoa, because I still remember the graphics and the posters, and it just had such a huge impact on me that, wow, yeah, girls can do anything. And I think from then, and it was around the time that Mum was sick, and so there was so much going on, but I've just developed this steel, I think, that, yeah, I'm going to do stuff, and I'm not going to be afraid to do stuff, because I can do anything, because I'm a girl. And so it just had it was the perfect message at the perfect time. And then I also, there was a boy in my class who was a punk, who I was really friendly with, and he had a really big influence on me as well, So I guess, getting to that point where, so I was married, had my 2 wee kids, not happily married, and then Mum got sick, and we knew that she wasn't going to survive it. And as you mentioned at the time, my wee boy was, he was really sick, having febrile convulsions and constant ear problems. He just wasn't a well wee boy. So yeah, it was a really, really tough time, and I think I started the newspaper because at the time, I think I'd like to say that I'm healed from being a rescuer. Still very much love helping people, but I was a classic rescuer then. And my ex-husband was actually a good writer himself, and he loved sport. So I thought, oh well, maybe I'll start a sport paper, and that might make him happy. And so it was actually more about him than it was about me. It wasn't my real passion, writing sport. I'd started as a free sport reporter at the Northern Outlook in my career, but it wasn't my absolute passion. So I think I was doing it, I guess, to try and, help the marriage in some way. That was a bad idea. But I think it was also perhaps a bit of a distraction from all the kind of really hard stuff that was going on. So it was something I could focus my attention on, away from that. But then the universe always goes, sorry, no, you can't actually distract yourself from all this. You've actually got to deal with it. And I'm not sure if you remember a night that you came round to my house, and
God, yes.
I think you ran. Great. Thanks, Olwynne. But we were sitting at my dining table, and there was a big bookcase there, and there was a family photo. It literally,
2 family photos.
Flew off the shelf onto the dining table, and I went, probably swear word, and you went, and you went, oh yeah, I think I better go.
Well, I don't know what you said before that. What preempted that was that your marriage was, you were separated at that time, and we were sitting there, and you were saying to me, oh, perhaps I should just give it a second try, and perhaps I should give it another chance. And these 2 photographs came off the end, or that, like, someone had picked them off and just gone bang, and they were 2 photographs of you, the 4 of you, your family. And I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. I can do that now, but it was like, and you're like, oh. It was very message, wasn't it? That was not a good idea.
That was pretty extraordinary, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It was.
You had some extraordinary things going on in that house, which you later dealt with, but it was an extraordinary time, I think, wasn't it? And then we started talking about the fact that we loved some similar things like the young ones, and I was doing my shows, my biz bashes, and we started writing ideas and sketches, which led to somewhere we never thought it was going to lead to, did we?
Oh yeah, definitely.
We wrote some sketches together, and then we went and wrote a full-blown black comedy called Robin Hood, A Twisted Sherwood Tale, which was just a
Hilarious.
magical time, never to be remembered.
Oh,
All the right people in the right place at the right time. And
that was another one
like you with Uniting Canterbury Women, just it was time, and it all happened, and we had so much fun and so much joy.
Oh, it was amazing. It was just amazing. Yeah.
Oh,
just quickly touching on when I got cancer, it actually saved my life.
Yes.
The cancer saved my life because it was the universe going, okay, well, you're not getting the message, so you better have this. And that was when, that changed my life on the positive. In the end. But I remember you gave me some very good advice when I was going through that journey as well, and you said to me, take control. Don't let the doctors have control over everything. And that was just such good advice, and that's advice I've given to so many people since, that if you're in a health situation, whatever it may be, just make sure that you are ultimately making the decisions that are right for you. Of course, I still had the chemotherapy and the radio I did all of that, but I also did so much more alongside. And then it also gave me a feeling of being in control and being empowered and being informed about everything I was doing. So
you took a holistic approach to it, didn't you? You did your orthodox, but you also did your natural as well, and side by side, which was just, it seemed such a great combination for you to get you through and give you empower you, really, didn't it?
Oh, look, it really did, and I had such great results. My prognosis wasn't brilliant. Well, it was 60-40 odds they gave me, so I was always of the mindset 60-40 is better than 50-50. And I look back now and think, how was I not more scared? But I honestly wasn't, because I knew deep down I was going to get through it, and I knew that I needed to go through it to propel me into a new space. And I think, and then it was a horrendous time. Mum, passed away in 2002, and then my wee boy had a stroke when he was 6 in 2003, and so it was a really, really tough time. But in the middle of all that, we were doing these crazy shows, and there was so much fun. And I think, that's the thing. You say, how do you do it? But things like, the newspaper may not have been my passion, but I was still proud of it and put a lot into it. And then the shows were just such a light in the creative writing. And so I think, I don't know, maybe it's just something within me that even if bad stuff's happening, I've got to find the light, or the stuff. Maybe it's the same, I don't know, maybe it's the same with the terror attack. There has to be good, there has to be some good.
That's right.
We have to do something we've got to honour those people who've lost their lives, and we've got to, things have to change because of this.
Yeah, I use the Sleeping Beauty analogy. Like the Sleeping Beauty story is that at her little christening and so on, the 3 good fairies come along, and the first one comes and gives her the gift of beauty, and the second one comes and gives her the gift of grace, and then the big Maleficent comes in and goes, well, she's going to prick her finger on a spindle on her 16th birthday and die, and everyone goes, and there's this great sort of horror and sadness and just unbelievable grief and all sorts of things that goes with that. And then the wee third fairy was hiding behind the curtain, and she just comes out when Maleficent's gone. She goes, well, I can't undo what she has done, but I can make it so that she doesn't die. She just sleeps for 100 years, and love's true kiss will wake her up. And I think that to me is that, yes, bad things happen, terrible things happen, but there is always that fairy, behind the curtain, who's going, I can't undo what's been done, but I can bring love to this. I can bring light to this. I can bring this to the light and offer it up, and let's share the love and do some healing here. And I think that's really what you know, we go back to the beginning of our conversation again, where that day you'd gone to get the news. Did you have breast cancer again, or did you not? I can't even imagine what that must feel like. You know, I have no concept. I touch wood and hope I never do. But to then have had that wonderful news on that day, and to be celebrating that, and then from that, and then the shootings, and then what came for you after that is like the fairy.
Yeah.
You know, you're the fairy.
Well, you know what, I think we're all a fairy. I think we all have that. We all are. We can all shun, you know, we all have, it's, I shouldn't say it's not special. It's something special in all of us.
It is.
We can all do that. And it doesn't have to be, as I said earlier, a great big thing. It doesn't have to be, you know, we can show love and shine light in the smallest ways can make the biggest amount of difference.
Right. And that's the thing, that it's like, you know, I guess what I'm saying about you being the fairy is that, you know, you were going through something really tough yourself, and you come out the other side of it with good news. And like you said, you always find the light in something. And then this came through you and you acted on it. Yeah. We all get those things to step up. Every single one of us gets them, don't they? It's not peculiar just to one person. It's just whether we're going to listen to that part of ourselves that says, you need to do this. It's like me doing this, Soulful Connections. Something's been telling me, do this, Olwynne, do this, Olwynne. And like I followed through on it, even though I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do that.
Oh, you're amazing.
Thank you, darling. You know, and it's like, yeah, I can ignore that, or I can follow through on it. Like you could have ignored that and gone, oh, no, not me. But you didn't. And that's kind of the message, isn't it? You know, don't ignore those wonderful little voices there, or whatever it is that you get to go, you know, I've written this little ditty that said, you know, if nothing comes to you to do good, create something.
Yeah, totally.
You know, create something. Don't wait for someone else to do it. Someone else might do it, but it came to you, so look at it, consider it. Action it, take some steps towards it, see what happens, like you did. You took steps towards it, and then it went poof, and off it went.
Oh, I know, it's amazing. Like I honestly thought we were organising an event, and then that might inspire other people to do stuff.
Yeah, amazing.
What actually happened was everyone's going, hey, that was cool, what are you doing next?
I know that one. I know that one really well. That was so good. Like, I didn't plan one. And
we've been asked to, you know, to do another big event, but you know, that was 3 months' work. But we're doing all sorts of, you know, small things. We've had our online taming anxiety sessions, and we're planning a mindfulness retreat day, which is going to be fun, and another intimate chat series night talking about you know, race and unity, and so that's going to be really powerful, I think. And so we've got lots of cool stuff coming up, and we're just so passionate about it. And it's just great. But the lovely things that happen are the unexpected things, you know, like I've had women say to me that they came, a lovely Pākehā woman that I know who came to the big event, made a new friend with a Muslim woman that night. They're in touch all the time, go for coffees. You know, these things that happen, there'll be other things like that we don't know about. So the ripple effect, we like to call it.
Yes,
and you never know the true ripple effect when you take a positive action. You never know. And so you think taking someone for a coffee, or starting a coffee group, or just chatting to somebody is a small thing, but it can be a huge thing. If someone's having a really bad day and someone takes the time to go and, you know, share some kind words or something, you know, you just don't know the difference that you can make by one simple act.
And that's so true. You know, I've spent a lot of years in the funeral industry, you know, 20 years, and working with people who are just shattered, you know, they had terrible things happen and lost loved ones and so on. And, you know, and you just, and you know, we've been there ourselves, we've lost people, and we know how that feels to you're just like, oh my God, but when it happens in such tragic circumstances, it just impacts hugely.
Wow. Absolutely.
And so, a kind word, being able to sit in the presence of people who are feeling broken. There's nothing we have to do. Our presence is enough. We don't just say anything. We can't make it okay by saying words or platitudes or whatever, but we can make a huge difference by just showing up.
Yeah, totally. And just
show up and be there for them and show them that you care by just being there and listening to them, or just sitting in silence with them, or whatever it is they need in order to feel safe and loved, and just to be allowed to be sad if they want to, or happy if they want to, or whatever else it is. Anyone can do that if you can just not get caught in. And I think it's that trying to be with people who are struggling or have loss or having difficulties. It pings us. It brings up our stuff, our unresolved stuff, doesn't it? So to actually be able to put our stuff just aside for a moment and be with them, I've learned so much about myself and resolve so many things within myself from just being in the presence of people who are really struggling. And not trying to fix them. I can't fix them.
No.
I can just show my love for them and my respect for them.
Absolutely. And I think we can actually learn so much too from how other cultures process grief, because
yes.
I'm completely just amazed, the grace and the peace and that the Muslim people showed in light of what had happened to them. They had every right to be angry but their culture is so beautiful and so peaceful. And I've got to know some of the widows really well, have lost husbands, sons, and who were there. And it's just, I'm just completely in awe of their strength and grace, and it's just been such a privilege for me to get to know these amazing women. And and it's been awfully hard for some of them, all of them of course, but for the woman who'd never driven or hadn't handled the family finances. And so
yes.
a lot of them are these amazing women are on such a big learning curve, and they're just extraordinary. And it's just been beautiful to have this privilege, to get to know these amazing women, and women from all sorts of cultures with all sorts of amazing stories. It's just great. I just wish we could do more and have bigger events. I don't know. I just like to encourage more people just reach out, just reach out.
And you're doing it already, and it's going to happen, and it's going to come. So you just keep showing up, and it will happen. It's meant to be, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be happening, would it?
It has been. It has been really cool. And we just like to, I think it's just, inspiring, hopefully, other women just to see that, that they can do stuff too. And there might be people in other areas that want to set up something similar, or maybe just, as I've said, just have that cup of coffee or whatever it might be. But,
And just, we're getting towards the end of time, and there's a couple more things I just want you to talk about. And that's, this is not the first time that your activism has been used to tell stories, is it? You've written a couple of really amazing books, or more than a couple, I think, haven't you? I just really want you to touch on those briefly, if you would, just to tell people what you've done.
Oh, thanks, Olwynne. I've written 4 books, and my book writing journey started in 2007 when Anna Streeton, the fashion designer, asked me to write her autobiography. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then the second book, I was approached by a chap. I had a wee tiny ad in the Yellow Pages, and he approached me, and he just had the most amazing stories. He was a child migrant in the UK. During the war years, growing up in the slums, and he got rounded up sort of by the authorities because he was a wee bit of a ratbag, and sent out to Australia as a child migrant. And there's been a lot of, understandably, negative stories that have come out about the scheme, because a lot of kids, did end up suffering horrible abuse. But he wanted to tell the positive story, which really appealed to me, because he was, in a street gang, an absolute horror. He would say that himself, he says, I probably would have ended up with Ronnie Biggs, on the Great Train Robbery. And going to Australia turned his life around, and at this farm school where he went. So he wanted to tell the positive story, because it wasn't a story that was really being told. And so that was an amazing journey. So we wrote that book, and then
what was it called?
That's called The Long Way Home. That's available on Amazon as an ebook. And then about 10 years ago, I was writing for the RSA magazine review, and started to sort of get these commissions to write these stories. And the first one was a veteran who'd served in the New Zealand Army, and he was 94 then, and we just became firm friends. Uncle Harry. And so I wrote his story, then a couple more stories for the RSA, and then that kind of grew into a collection of true World War II stories. So there's two New Zealand servicemen, Harry and Naylor, who served in the Air Force, and then 4 stories of children of war in Poland and the Netherlands and the Dutch East Indies, and Ron's story as well. Put in there too, an extract from it. So it was just the most amazing journey. And again, it's all about, I'm a passionate historian, and to me, we have to look back to these stories of the past, and these people again had significant traumas that they lived through, and maybe that's part of my journey. Going through those traumas in my own life has helped me to be able to talk to people who've gone through trauma. I mean, it's not a place I feel uncomfortable in, and I guess that's because I've lived through things as well. And but these stories are just so important, because the impact of things like war on innocent people, like children whose lives were turned upside down. They all ended up in New Zealand as migrants or evacuees, and they lost their homes forever, and many family members. And so surely as a human race, I don't know, hope it'll never be perfect, and we'll never have a utopia, and probably nor should we, because we'll stop learning. But there has to be a point where we go, war is really dumb. What is the point of?
No one wins a war.
Nobody wins. The fallout is just massive, and you end up with people, killed or broken, and families torn apart, and grief, and there's just no sense to it. And so the idea of telling these stories is that hopefully it's just a reminder of the impacts on, innocent children or people that choose to serve even if they don't really want to, and what that actually means, when they do go and serve. So,
lovely. Yeah. And that book is called?
That's called Never Forget, and that's up on Amazon as well. Lovely. Yeah.
And I will have all of Jo's contact links and page and everything else up here at the end of this video, at the end of our broadcast here. So you can go and check her out and have a look at all those lovely places where you can find her and get contact if you want to. Just find out more about Uniting Canterbury Women. Okay, well, Jo, your story is phenomenal, and what you're doing is amazing, and you're a beautiful woman, Uniting Canterbury Women. And I think that one of the, as I said in the beginning, the thing that inspired me most to want to share your story with other people through this medium is that, making soulful connections is so important, isn't it? And to see people not as, their colour or their race or their belief system or whatever, but just to see us all as souls, in our most pure and beautiful form. And whether male or female, we are who we are, and the more that we can accept each other in that way, the happier and more peaceful our world will be. But there's just one more thing, and that you received a wonderful tip to your work, and you were supposed to be in England, weren't you?
I was in April. Yes, I know. It was a bit of a shame, but I actually won a scholarship through the RSA to do some research, World War I research actually, about a Christchurch nurse who served at the Brockenhurst No. 1 General Hospital. And every year the RSA sends a scholar over there to do some research. So I was so excited. I was supposed to be going at the end of April. So unfortunately that has gone on hold. So, but hopefully I might, if I don't get there next year, maybe Anzac Day 2022, hopefully I'll be over there. But no, our project's it's exciting. She's got an amazing story, and actually just the way the universe works. I just had a call this morning. I do quite a lot of public speaking with my book and World War II book, and I met a lovely lady who just called me this morning because she knows someone from, I mentioned the scholarship, and she knows someone whose mum served there, and she's got all this information about Brockenhurst, and she would love to talk to me. So I just love how, the connections all just, when you're in the right space, things just happen, don't they? Which is just amazing.
You're following your path and you're doing what you're meant to be doing, then that the wonderful synchronicity, it all comes together and people find people. And
they do.
Yeah.
And probably one final thing that I'd love to share, which has changed my life hugely, is that for the last nearly 4 years, I have had a daily gratitude practice. And so I talk to my guides and angels and every day, and show gratitude and chat about things I might need a little bit of help with, or the lovely things that I'm grateful for. And it's just made the most profound difference to my life, because I'm checking in every day, and I just feel that it really does help to keep me on my path as well. And I try to do a yoga and meditation every morning as well, and just that mindfulness and gratitude. I just find that I feel calm in my body when I'm as long as I keeping up with those practices, and then things that I don't kind of overreact to the stuff that I would have when I was a bit younger. Instead of reacting, I'm kind of like more observing and a bit more rational as I've got older, which is quite good. There's got to be joys in it, isn't there?
Well, that's it. I think the older you get, the more you just go, I can't put with that anymore. I don't want the drama of all that, and you just become. But that practice is really important, isn't it? That mindfulness practice is just so important, because it just brings everything back to yourself in the present. And makes you more centered and less fearful, and much more connected to the good things in life. And there are lots of good things to be connected to, aren't there?
There are. And
to be connected to.
Especially with what's going on in the world at the moment. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. We're so fortunate to be in New Zealand. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
But it's still, it can be very, very triggering, for people as well. And I just think coming back, or as you say, always coming back to, bringing it, just coming back into ourselves. I'm a great believer, even though I've worked in the media for a long time, not reading too much media. I don't want that in my lounge. I don't want that in my life. And actually, all we can actually be is centered in ourselves, really. And and even in the midst of stuff, the external stuff, we can still just be within our bodies and still being positive and doing stuff that makes a difference. And
Absolutely. Well, I learned one thing through the Christchurch earthquakes is all we ever have is now. The moment we're standing in that moment, and then that moment and that moment. It's all we have, because as we found through the earthquakes, you can be sitting here and all of a sudden the rooms can start shaking out of nowhere, and you don't know how big it's going to be or how small it's going to be or what's going to happen. So it really, really taught me to be right here, right now. This is it. This is what we've got. So, well, thank you, Jo.
Oh, thank you.
And it's been a great conversation. If we weren't in this forum, Jo and I would still be talking. We would have gone off at all kinds of other tangents and other directions. So I think we've done really well to stay.
I think we actually have. I think when you came for coffee a couple of weeks ago, that was a 4-hour coffee. So we've done very well.
Stay on brief and do what we're doing. We could have gone off in so many different directions. Look, thank you, my dear. It's just been such a joy. It always is.
Oh,
And
thank you
it's
so
you
much.
and you're a wonderful woman doing what you're doing. And
Well, no, ditto to you, and I love your Tuesday night sessions.
oh,
I've got a couple I've still got to catch up on. I love last night's one, but no, you're just doing great work, and it takes it takes courage to be who we are and put ourselves out there as well. But I think there again, as we get older, we kind of give less worries about that, don't we? And we've got to be who we are.
Look, I don't want to be somebody else. And it's really interesting, talking about the things that we didn't know we were going to do. From when I was really, really little, all I ever wanted to do was be an actress and be on television and be in the movies. That's what I wanted to do. And I went off and did stage and put everybody else up there. And what am I doing?
There you go.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
I could never be an actress. I had so much trouble. I had enough trouble being myself without being anyone else. So it's like we find this place that we're meant to be doing what we're meant to be doing. Like listening and really following that, even though it might seem really out there and a bit scary sometimes, and we're in the unknown and so on. So but look, thank you, love. It's been absolutely wonderful. Just stay there for a moment. I'm just gonna finish off, and if you just want to stay there, and much love to you, and thank you for being here. And I know that all the people who are going to watch this are just going to feel so inspired by the work that you're all doing in Uniting Canterbury Women.
Oh, thanks, Olwynne.
Thank
you so much for having me.
That's right. Pleasure as always. Just stay there for me. Okay. I just want to say thank you to everybody. Jo's still here with me. We're going to carry on and have a bit more of a chat once we've finished here. Thank you all for being here, and Jo's details and Uniting Canterbury Women details will be up on the screen at the end of our video. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see us next time when I come back with my next Soulful Connection. Bye for now.